Welcome to the Sales Leader of Influence show. For sales leaders who lead with soul, spirit, and spine. In a world obsessed with tactics, this is the show for those who know leadership is personal. And here's your host, Bernadette McClelland.
Good afternoon and welcome to this week's Sales Leader of Influence show. And for this week, I wanted to share with you some ideas around a word that we hear that maybe we don't give much credence to or notice to or even emphasis to. And that word is the word position. And when we talk about position or positioning ourselves, what does it mean? Why is it so important? How do we do it? Especially when it aligns with another word called opportunity, because we really do need to look around us today and think, okay, how can I optimize any or every potential opportunity that comes my way? The thing is, we need to be ready for those opportunities. You know, opportunities don't come knocking at our door all that often. And when they do, we have to think, well, okay, they're dropping in our lap. Are we ready to respond in the moment? Because if we're not ready to respond in the moment, that's when opportunities just disappear as quickly as they come. And so what tends to happen is we miss so many opportunities, and we miss them for lots and lots of different reasons. And one of the reasons could be that we're focusing on what perhaps isn't happening for us that we would love to happen. I've just done a training this morning with a group of sales people, and we've zoned in on a word called counterfactual, which means, can you see something that doesn't exist? And so basically what that means is we know what business we've won, we know what business we've lost, but what business has been out there that we didn't see. And as a result of us not seeing that business, it was just never on our radar. And that's what I'm talking about today as far as being positioned. So when we talk about positioning ourselves, we want to be able to be in the right state of readiness. So today I want to share a couple of different ways that we can be in this state of positioning, I guess. And so where this idea came from, where this thought came from as well, is that I'm preparing for something, and in preparation for this something, I'm thinking, okay, am I positioned? And it took me back a couple of decades to when I was in sales and Xerox, way back when we used to carry briefcases. Now I am talking the click the two buttons with the little combination lock, lift the lid briefcase. And then what would happen is we would sit in a circle, the team would sit in a circle, and a salesperson would have their turn in the center of the circle on the chair. And what would happen is people would, yell out or, say, have you got your pen? And you would open your briefcase and, yep, there's my pen. And somebody else would say, have you got a brochure on product X, Y, and Z? And you would flick through it. Yep, there's my brochure on product X, Y, and Z. Someone would say, have you got a copy of the service agreement? And if you didn't have whatever you needed, you had to say, it's in the car. And the reason for that exercise basically was because, you're thinking we're in different times then, remember, that if you were sitting in front of a prospect or a client and you had the opportunity to sign a deal and you didn't have a pen, or perhaps you didn't have the service agreement, or you were in a position where you could perhaps show a new product and you didn't have that brochure, then it was literally in the car, then you knew that you had just lost an opportunity. So from a positioning perspective, you were not positioned. to respond the right way, and potentially that opportunity would go to your competitor. So when we look, and even just the stock market, like even just the market, last Friday, week ago, my mentor texted and said, market's down, buy. So I had funds in that account, and it was the Friday night. And so I could have missed the market if I would have to have gone to another account and transferred money across. But as it was, I was able to just buy. So that's a case of me being positioned to take advantage of an opportunity. So whereabouts are you not positioned? Because positioning yourself, or any form of positioning, is power. Because when you have this power as a salesperson, if you're negotiating and you're not positioned, as I explained before, then you are negotiating from a place of weakness. If you're a leader, a sales leader, a leader of any sort really, and you're not positioned from a space of presence, or it could be culturally, it could be that you haven't got clear on your non-negotiables, it could be accountability based, then the team are not going to have as much confidence in you as you would like and as they would like. And from a buyer's perspective, I mean, if you are not positioned, then you are going to come across as somebody that potentially reeks of desperation. And so I want you to think to yourself, whereabouts can I position myself in a more effective way? Because when you do, you actually come to the table with a lot more conviction. And it's that conviction that people are buying, not just your product or your service. And when you have that clear emotion or energy of conviction, then that is true self-worth. So I want you to consider where you could fall down. And you would know it in yourself anyway. Like, I mean, you've experienced what I've experienced, similar things to what I've experienced. And so I want to kind of, I guess, reframe this as being individual ready. And so these three levels of readiness that I want to share with you come also, my daughter was in the Royal Australian Air Force for 10 years, and she was deployed to the Middle East in her mid-20s. It's the call that no mum wants to get. However, anybody who's got family or friends that have been deployed would know that they need to tick some boxes before they go. And so the boxes that they need to tick is for individual readiness. It is mental fitness, physical fitness, emotional fitness. It's also how proficient are you at using your weapon. So naturally we don't have weapons, but we do have tools of trade. And this is what it comes back to, is like, how proficient are you with all of this, and how individual ready are you? And so opportunities are not going to wait for you. And it's just the same as, when I talk about you waiting for opportunities, that's a sign of scarcity. You're in the waiting room and you're losing opportunities as well because you are waiting. So we're not talking about firearms here with individual readiness, but we are talking about being mission ready for being out there in the field or with your sales team. So individual ready in every sense. So when opportunity comes to you, how are you going to rise to the occasion, I guess is what I want to say. So what are these three forms of readiness? So the first, I guess the first type of readiness that I want to share is emotional readiness. And when we talk about emotional readiness, it is the ability for you to let go of the outcome. Now, I'm not saying let go of your intention or let go of your goal. I'm saying let go of the outcome. The thing is, we get so emotionally attached to a specific result that what happens is we close off unconsciously to any other door that might be open, also known as opportunities. And so You can feel it in sales conversations when salespeople are kind of clutching that I need this deal, it needs to happen. Let go of the outcome. If you're prepared and you've positioned yourself correctly and everything's good to go, then relax, because that energy, the tighter you grip, the faster that opportunity is going to slip away. And that's because we are wired for certainty. But the thing is, if you aren't able to let go of the outcome and step into uncertainty, then what you're doing by clinging to this certainty and making things so rigid and this deal's got to come through, what you're doing is you're kind of stepping back into the past, and you're bringing all that baggage energy with you, and or any form of growth is just going to stop. There's no evolution there. There's no creativity in your thinking. And so that's what I want. That's what I mean when I say, from an emotional readiness perspective, let go of the outcome. So that's you learning to be a lot calmer and to walk into the room as that grounded person. And look, some people do it absolutely naturally, other people don't, and it's a learned thing as well. So, I refer to it as the gift of the gap, because there is this gap between certainty and uncertainty, and there's a space in there where you can just learn to kind of step into this neutrality. And that's an energy, and that's a superpower if you're able to do that. And it's just stepping into the present and being really okay with whatever happens. So doesn't mean to say that you're not trying. I just really wanted to kind of zone in on that. So the second form of readiness is practical readiness. And so what do I mean by practical readiness? It's these, I guess, for you, the ability for you to build these little, I don't know, micro moments of momentum. Because when you can build momentum on top of momentum on top of momentum, things happen. And so things like, I guess, from a leadership perspective, it could be likened to discipline. So when I work with sales leaders or business owners, and I'm really zoning in on role clarity, part of the role clarity there is identifying the discipline needed for a sales leader to actually have a cadence. So we talk about salespeople with their cadence for outreach, but sales leaders also have a cadence as well, or should have some form of a cadence. And this sets them up for all these micro momentum moments, because they are ready to respond to opportunities from their team or from the pipeline. And so if you, I guess it's a little bit like in the Air Force, if I was to use that analogy again of my daughter, that you don't actually wait for deployment to get organized. You actually practice readiness daily. And what I mean by that specifically is, what are your checklists? What's your coaching cadence? How often do you walk around the room, or room being, it can be virtual, it can be whatever, and checking in with the team? How often do you hold them accountable? How seriously do you hold them accountable? How often do you have reviews? How often do you have quarterly business reviews? How often do you go out in the field with them? I mean, all of these things are micro momentum moments that build one on top of the other. So rather than just kind of sitting back and looking at things from a linear fashion, build on that momentum, and your team will pick up on that as well. It's the same with salespeople, just kind of continually being out there. So, like I said, you don't get ready. You don't get readiness, or you don't get ready. You stay ready. Role plays for your sales team. I mean, how often do you prepare your sales team to be out there in the field, to have those conversations? So role play is key. for you as a sales leader to not just coach the deal or review the deal and how are we going with the deal and who do you need to see and the typical questions, coach them on their thinking. I mean, this is really important. It's how do your team think? So have those reviews based on that. And once again, it comes back to the habits that I mentioned before. So we want you to step in with absolute certainty with your team if you are a sales leader. So once again, momentum, it's building, building, building. The third area for readiness as part of all this individual readiness is energetic readiness. And when I talk about energetic readiness, it's really the sales leader of influence method. The peak of the triangle, if you like, the pyramid, is position. And at the peak there, it's about you tapping into your creativity. So yes, your outcome is you positioning yourself, but you have to tap into your creativity. And in order to do that, or as a result of that, you will magnetize others. And so how do you do that? Because this is all around alignment. And this is about your energy. It's about you having challenges, yes, so we all have them, but inside those challenges, there's always a seed of an opportunity. And so how do you take that seed and how do you go vertical with that? How do you create something new? How do you find brand new opportunities? And I spoke about this on the last episode of this show, is about need versus want. If you're hanging around in we need to do this, we need to do that, you are capping your opportunities. You are not positioning yourself. So we really want to know, well, how can we create new opportunities? And this is the individual readiness component of being energetically ready. And so when you give yourself space to do this, you are going to find that creativity, imagination, innovation with you and the team goes off the charts. It really, truly does. So what I want you to consider is that the power of positioning yourself today is the opportunities are there. And all of us, me included, we really have to make the most of the time that we have and the opportunities that are out there and just simply position ourselves. So, that the Air Force doesn't wait for the skies to be nice and clear and blue like they are here today in Colorado, and we shouldn't either. So the same goes for markets, the same goes for leadership, the same goes for your sales, the same goes for our life. It's like, how can we be ready for those moments that are going to drop in our lap? And so it's really all about power in motion, and it's about leverage, and it's about readiness. And so I wanted to share that with you today, and I want you to consider asking yourself, whereabouts do you need to raise your level of readiness, whether it's emotionally, whether it's from a practical perspective, or whether it's purely from an energetic perspective, because all three are totally key. So if you are ready to lead from a place of alignment, I guess, or deeper alignment, I guess, outer advantage, I would really encourage you to go to salesleaderofinfluence.com and download right at the top, on the hero part at the top, there is a big button that says download Executive Insight Brief. And this is all around the new sales leadership paradigm, because things are shifting on such different levels today, not just academically, not just from an intellectual perspective, but from an energetic alignment perspective as well. And you really need to start to, I guess, understand the way that a lot of people today are shifting their thinking and their feeling when it comes to working in the sales and sales leadership space. So that insights paper is going to give you wonderful insights into how you can perhaps look at your role as a sales leader or an aspiring sales leader or a high potential in a different way. So download Sales Leader influence.com. So if you're ready to go further, then join the Sales Leader of Influence Accelerator. Jump on the, I won't say wait list, I will say momentum list, because we don't want to wait. That will be kicking off in November, and you'll see that on the Sales Leader of Influence page. So on that note, continue to lead with soul, lead with spirit, and definitely lead with spine. Have a great week, and we will see you this time next week. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sales Leader of Influence show with your host, Bernadette McClelland. See you next Wednesday live at 5 o'clock Eastern.